Howdy, howdy, howdy. I hope everyone's doing fantastic. A good Monday night to y'all. Yeah, maybe I'm a minute or so late. Sorry about that, guys. What was it? Red Solo Cup. Yeah, y'all know that song? Oh, that's one of my favorite songs. Red Solo Cup. Yeah, if you don't know the song, look up something. I hope y'all are doing fantastic. Yeah, I'm running behind just a little bit. Oh, hold on a second. All right. Well, you know what? Maybe that'll have to do because I've been having some technical issues, guys, which y'all are quickly getting to discover. All right, let's try this. I had my camera messing up on me, but you know what? We're going to call it good tonight. Sometimes you have to, just like inside the Big Brother house and in life itself, sometimes you have to be a little bit flexible. Hey, it's just been one of those kind of days. All kinds of technical issues. I had a little bit of issue with the laptop. My green screen was acting up. Remember last week I showed y'all with the with my BB Comics uniform? I'm just kind of floating around. Well, I don't know. I guess technology doesn't like me today. And our whole TV system, everything went out. Do you know how hard it is to think that I'm going to be missing Big Brother and everything else? It started last night. So maybe we didn't have the Big Brother episode. Maybe it was just all because of me. Just because I didn't have the TV access. But that's all right. We got it all figured out. So welcome aboard to all of y'all. Let me get out there and see who all is on board this evening. Brian Hostetler, Hedler, howdy sir, Amanda Lowe, Alicia, Ma, howdy Ma, Man Star Live, yo, Monstar. Sorry about that. Julie Moore, howdy. Jake Patton, hey sir, Desiree Watts, Julie Moore, David, let's see, Mark Taylor, Joyce and Grinstead, Melanie Walken, Ned Head, Paul Scott. Man, I got all kinds of friends out here. Alpha Cat, Ryan Art, David Angelini, Anna Cano, Nathan. Did I miss anyone? Oh, not Valerie Ames, Shelly Goncalves. Sorry. I turned down the brightness of my screen so y'all don't get a lot of reflection off of my glasses and everything else. Mark Taylor, Kathy Hansen, Kara Pumphrey, Leslie Starr. We'll shut it down. Right, Genevieve Nash. We'll shut it down right there. You know, it's funny. I remember talking about glasses and all that. Before Big Brother started, we're at the end of Big Brother, so I ought to be telling stories about that. But I'll tell you one about before we ever got started. As you probably know, you're in Sequester for a long time. Oh my gosh, locked away, nothing to do. We don't ever leave. We're just stuck. And at one point, I was so excited because the Big Brother producer people said, all right, we're going to go do some media stuff and all of that. And we got taken over to the CBS studios. They took all kinds of pictures of it. Yeah, when you see the intro and we were spinning around and I think I tipped my hat or something on my little intro part. That's all filmed before the show ever starts. Now they keep us separated. So even then you don't see anyone else. There's super security to make sure that no one sees each other. You'd think we were bigwig politicians or something, the way they treated us as far as people with microphones. But anyway, so they filmed all of that, but there was one section. Y'all seen the pictures where we're all are like holding the Big Brother frame and we're sticking our faces through it, things like that, right? They were trying to film that, and they had lighting set up all over the studio. I mean, everywhere. And every time they would take a picture, it would hit my glasses and it would bounce off, and you couldn't even see my eyes. I look like a demon from the underworld or something with big old bright white lights coming out of my eyes. And they tried and finally they got some stuff. They put on the glasses and we switched glasses and they changed lights. And I was a problem child. Before I ever went on the show, they were probably saying, man, Cliff, that guy is just going to be nothing but problems, because they kept telling me how everyone else this was easy. For some reason, it's just not working quite right. And I should have just told them right then, well, just wait, because it's only going to get worse, guys. So there you go. That's my little story. I had no reason to mention that. It just felt like throwing it out there. All right, before we talk, I know y'all want to talk about Big Brother, some other things. Before we do that, let me just mention two things. One, welcome to all of y'all who may not be watching live, who are watching this on replay. I didn't holler at your names because I haven't seen you yet, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate you being out there and watching. So thank you for that. And two, for my Canadian friends, and I know there's a couple of them out there at least. I hope y'all voted today. For those of us who are south of the border, y'all may not realize, but today's a federal election up in Canada. Justin Trudeau is kind of his life's on the line. He's got to get enough people to vote for his party so he can stay in power. And so if you're Canadian and you haven't voted and you're I guess on the West Coast, so the polls are still open, go vote. Do your part to keep democracy alive. All right, there we go. Let's talk about different things going on. First of all, spoiler. I'm going to try so hard, guys, not to talk about spoilers. Now, there's going to be plenty of spoilers over here in the comments. That way, yeah, plenty of spoilers over in the comments. So if you don't want spoilers, don't read the comics. As much as I love everyone out there, don't read them if you don't want spoilers. I am going to try to avoid talking spoilers. If I say something, I'll apologize in advance. All right, let's see. What do Shelly says, what do I think of Big D and his conversation with Ozza? I got to be careful, Shelly. I got to be careful. I think I know. There have been so many conversations taking place. It's tough. I think I may know what you're talking about, but I got to be careful. I don't want to give away spoilers. So instead of talking about specific conversation, let me just mention this. Do y'all realize when there are 4 people in the house? I remember when I first started in Big Brother, 16 people. You couldn't go anywhere. You'd need to go to the bathroom, and you'd walk into the bathroom. There's 5 or 6 people just hanging around. It's like, what are y'all doing? Go somewhere else. But it never quite worked. And you couldn't say that because you didn't want to offend anyone. So whatever. But no matter where you went, there were people. By the time you get to only 4 people, you have entire rooms to yourself. And we've seen that. We've seen there have been a lot of shots. I'm doing overnight feeds and reporting on them every morning. And I've seen so many evenings where an hour at a time, for example, Ozza is just laying in the yacht room. She's got all kinds of little Fruity Pebbles and Fruit Loops and trying to do all these things to keep track of dates and memories and all that. And she's just sitting there laying all by herself in that room. Big D, bless his soul, he'll sit in the living room and just look like the most sad individual as he just sits there, not talking to a soul for hours at a time. It is so hard in there. I used to go into what was our boat room. It's the exercise room this year, but it was a boat room for us. I would just go in there. I'd lay down. Sometimes I talk to the camera. Sometimes I just go in there to get away from everyone else. Because here's the deal, and it's all getting back to you asking about the conversation, Shelly. You get so tired of talking to the same people over and over and over again about the same things. In this case, we know Xavier is HOH, right? We know that he's safe going to the final 3, but someone is going home. Someone is going home on Thursday, is not going to be part of the final 3. I know what that feeling is like. I know what it feels like to be so close to your goal. I remember sitting there thinking, gosh, one more spot. If I can just make it to the final 3, then I get to be on the stage that final night. My family will be there to see me. Everything's just going to be, win or not, everything's going to be pretty cool once I get to that point. I just didn't quite make it. And it makes for such a stressful situation. And so you want to talk to people. You want to try to convince them. But you only have 3 people to talk to. And during our season, of course, Nicole and I are like that. So we would talk all the time and hang out with each other. Well, Mickey and Holly were very much like that. And so they were hanging out a lot. So Nicole and I'm glad we were friends. I would hate if Nicole and I hadn't gotten along very well either, because as much as Mickey and Holly were hanging around, it just was a lot of fun hanging around with her. But God, you just get so tired of the same conversations over and over. All right, we'll go back to Big Brother. I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that. But a couple other questions and everything. One, Barbarella, are you doing Survivor Cliff Notes? Yeah, I want to make it. Y'all know the way I talk. And I end up talking longer. Suddenly it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern, and I've gotten around to half the topics I wanted to cover. So let's talk about Survivor. Do y'all realize Wednesday, another episode of Big Brother? Feels like it's been forever since we didn't get a Sunday night episode. But another episode of Big Brother is on. But before that, first, you like how I got that in there? But first, we've got the premiere of Survivor Season 41. It seems like it has been forever since our last Survivor series was on TV. COVID just did a number on those guys. They had to shut it down. Anyway, we got Survivor back. I think it's a 2-hour premiere on Wednesday night. And I thought long and hard about it. There's only so many hours in the day. But I'm a huge fan of Survivor. I watch Survivor and Big Brother both when I've never missed an episode of Survivor. So I was thinking about if I'm going to be watching it anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a Cliff Notes wrap up of Survivor, and I'm going to do it similar to Big Brother, except you don't have the live feeds. But once a week, probably, I guess, on a Thursday morning, or I guess Survivor will stay on Wednesdays this year. We'll see. But anyway, the day after the episode, I'll try to put out a little, I don't know, 20-minute recap or something of what happened the night before, and just give you my thoughts on what it would be like to be out on the island of Fiji trying to survive with nothing but a cup of rice and a bunch of people that want to boot you off that island and everything else. I love Survivor. It's a different game than Big Brother, but I love it. So I'll talk about that. So for those of you who follow me, for those of you who don't follow me on YouTube, please do, because you'll start getting notifications whenever I publish a recap every week on Survivor and what's going on outside in the Survivor world with that. We got 18 contestants this year, so I think it's going to be, and they're fun. I looked through the cast preview, and there's a lot of fun folks in there, so I'm looking forward to this season. All right. Let's talk about this one. Joyce, will Xavier take down Ozza? I don't want to get into spoilers. I don't want to talk about what may or may not happen. We know Xavier's got the HOH power, but beyond that, I don't know. Let me pick this up. Someone asked Ma said, who's your winner prediction? I think it's got to be Xavier, right? Xavier's safe. He's going to the final three. We knew that as soon as he won that HOH competition. So now we know he's in. We know two of the other three are in. But yeah, I'll put it this way: regardless of who stays, who goes home of those other three, as long as Xavier is in the final three, I think he's winning the whole thing. I really do. I think that's going to be the case. And I'd like to say I made that call the first week or so. I really felt like he just exuded a leadership about him, and he wasn't the most the aggressive player in the very beginning. He kind of sat back. He let other people do some of the work, which I think was a smart strategy, and that's paying off. Now he's going to show up. I think most people in the Big Brother jury house don't really have anything against him, and so I think he's going to win it. We'll see. All right, let's see what else. I got another story I'll tell you about the Final Four, but let me see this. First of all, Patty Morey, hello from Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Well, howdy, Patty, out you are doing all right. I don't believe that I've ever been to Kutztown. I've been to, I hope I pronounced that right. Is it Kutztown? I said Kutztown. I have been to Pittsburgh, and I think that's about all I've been to in Pennsylvania. I went to Pittsburgh. I actually took a special trip over to Monroeville just so I could see the Monroeville Mall where Dawn of the Dead was filmed. Favorite movie of all time. Yeah, I really like the movie. But so I did a little location tour all over Pittsburgh and Monroeville. All right. Brian's asking, how does Ozza use Fruit Loops for memory? I don't know. Brian, your guess is as good as mine. I have laughed. I have watched the house guests this season. They're all using chess pieces and Fruit Loops. Ozza, you see people, you see these ancient pictures and everything of people using abacus. An abacus. Why is that so hard to say? That sounds funny as I say it. Y'all know the beads that go up and down. I don't know. Ozza uses Fruit Loops like she's a human computer or something. I'd love to find out. One of these days, I'm going to meet I'd like to think I'm going to meet them at charity events and things like that. And I'd love to ask Ozza exactly how she does it because I have no clue. I just watch on the live feeds and I see that she's got all these brightly colored pieces lined up. That's what I do. I'd use pizzas to test my memory and everything. Yeah, like I could, I'd just eat all my memory aids and then that wouldn't help me at all. But I don't know. She's got it all laid out with all different kinds of food and everything. I assume that maybe different colors. I don't know. Maybe a red Fruit Loop represents evictions and yellow Fruit Loops represent vetoes or something. I don't know. But I'd like to find out. I used as my memory aid, I had a Bible that my son had given me before I went in the house. And so I used that as my study aid. I would actually say, okay, on day 62, day 51, Tommy won veto. So I would go to page 51 and I'd fold that page over to know that something happened on that day. And depending on the way I folded it would kind of help me remember whether it was a veto or an eviction, things like that. I had a lot of things that I did with those Bible pages, and I'm not giving it away because those are insider secrets that I may use somewhere down the road if I ever go back into that house. But yeah, I had my study aid, which basically involved the little Bible I had. Nicole used backgammon pieces, if I recall, or maybe chess. I think she may have used the chess board, but not necessarily the chess pieces. Ozza does her thing with Fruit Loops. Kylan, I don't know what he does. I think he could have 5 or 6 chess boards and he could use them all, and he still wouldn't he'd still not have enough pieces for all the configurations he comes out with. So he did that. Marilyn saying, hey, did they do a veto ceremony today? I don't know. And that's not a spoiler to talk about the veto ceremony. Normally it's held on a Monday. And I said on my little morning recap this morning that I thought it was going to be today, but I haven't seen any official announcement. But it makes sense it would be today. We know there's been a veto winner. So why wouldn't you do it knowing that the eviction is going to be on Thursday, just like always? But I don't know. And here's the one rub into it. Normally, they've done it for the past 2 years. They had a luxury competition. During my season, we were locked up in the HOH room. They went through the house. They changed some things. We had to run around and had like 5 minutes to figure out what had changed, count them all up. Whoever came closest to that number won $10,000. Mickey won, of course. He and I guessed the same number, but he guessed it earlier than I did, and so he won the money. But they had that special competition. And then last year, they had some kind of competition. Do y'all remember the comic book characters fighting each other? Really kind of the people just the house guests just sat there and watched, which I don't know, that's kind of weird for a luxury competition, but they gave away $10,000. So it could be, instead of a veto competition today, maybe they had some kind of luxury competition again. Heck, they went from $500,000 to $750,000. They may have bumped that $10,000 luxury prize up to a lot more as well. I don't know, but they may have done that today instead of veto ceremony, because I haven't heard one way or the other whether they've actually had it or not. We'll find out. We'll probably find out here in just a little bit. All right, Shayla Zumstein, is Survivor as good as Big Brother? Is it worth start watching? All right, Shayla, if you haven't watched Survivor yet, then yeah, you definitely need to watch it. And if you've got CBS All Access, I guess it's Paramount Plus now, you've got a lot of episodes to get caught up on. Is it better? Is it worse? It's just different. Survivor, at least when it started, you were dealing a lot more with living in the elements. You had to build your own shelter. You had limited food to live on, just like a cup of rice a day. And so theoretically, it was a little tougher from a physical standpoint. Whereas Big Brother, it was more about the social relationships, a little bit more than Survivor. And the difference right now, they've really downplayed the people starving to death on an island. And I think it's because there were some people who truly were starving to death on the island when they ran out of food. And I think this season, it's only going to be, I don't know, 26 days or something. It's pretty quick. So I feel like I got enough extra bulk on me. I could just almost go 26 days with very little food whatsoever and survive just like a bear that's gotten up, that's hibernating. But the difference is, in Big Brother, every week you've got the whole house voting to send someone out the door. And by the time it comes to eviction, you only have 2 choices. You can either vote out A or you can vote out B. Whereas with Big Brother, it's not the whole house that's voting. It's one individual tribe. So you may only have 5 or 6 people who are making a decision on who they want to send home. But they can send anyone home of those 5 or 6. So if your little group, your little tribe doesn't do well in the competitions, if you go to tribal council, anyone in that tribe theoretically can get sent home if you don't have an immunity idol, which is like a veto type device. So yeah, no, I think it's great. It's different strategy. I think you've got to build tighter alliances with smaller groups of people as compared to Big Brother, where you've got to build alliances with everyone and just hope that that those alliances prove true to you and all of that. Big Brother, Survivor, because you start off with smaller tribes. As you get people winnowing down to smaller and smaller, eventually they merge with other tribes. So then you got to start the process all over again. It's just different. The other thing too, in Big Brother, I was in the house 93 days. It was a 99-day season. So you have a long time to talk to people, to develop these relationships, to work on strategies and all the different scenarios. With Survivor only being 26 days, you start off with 18 people. Basically, what's that? Every other day or something, it seems like there's someone that's getting sent out the door. So it's a lot faster paced You can't really sit back and talk forever before you have the next week coming up. So that's a little bit different. But no, I love Survivor. Always have. So I'm excited about talking about it, looking forward to it. All right, let's see. KDR, back at the old Dixie Chicken. Yeah. I was trying to come up with what topics I wanted to throw out tonight, and that's my little standby. That's my default place to go. We had college football over the weekend. A&M played New Mexico, and when I'm in College Station, I always go to the football games. But yeah, the Dixie Chicken is a fantastic place to hang out. So yes, it's welcome to my hangout. At least my home away from home was during my college years. Before the wife. I love the chicken. All right. For those of you who don't know, the Dixie Chicken. The Dixie Chicken at one point had the record in the United States for selling more beer per square foot than any other location in the United States. It's a little bar that started in the mid-'70s, just right across the street from Texas A&M University. It's been there for, since the 70s, but it's just it's right across the street from law where the students live and everything else, and so it's where we would go hang out all the time. It was a lot of fun. All right, so let's see, Michelle. Big D Ozza competition would be fun to watch. Yeah, that would be interesting to see the two of them go against each other. That Big D and Ozza have not won a lot of comps so far. We saw Ozza win that one competition in the double eviction, right? But yeah, I'd be curious to see how the two of them would go. Do y'all remember the final 3 competitions that we had? I got booted, unfortunately, but do y'all remember the competitions I had? The first one involved running across bridges, trying to gather little gold coins. Once they had enough of them gathered, they had to build a puzzle. A very physical, very athletic competition, which Mickey won in a landslide. Holly and Nicole weren't even close. But then the second competition was like climbing a kind of doing some rock climbing, wall climbing with different days that different events happened. And they had to crawl up it and set up, put the right day, different things. And Holly unfortunately won that. Nicole, I figured she would have killed it at the rock climbing. But just didn't quite get there as quickly. They had smoke blowing all out, and I think some of that got in her lungs and kind of slowed Nicole down. But yeah, it was tough, those competitions. So yeah, I could see, assuming that Ozza and Big D make it to a Final 3, it'd be kind of interesting to see the two of them competing with or against each other to see if maybe they can move forward in the competition. That'd be fun. And I've heard people talk about, I don't want to see so-and-so make it to the Final 3, or I do want to see so-and-so. I don't really care at this point. Yeah, Ozza and Big D have not won as many competitions as other people. Big D, if he makes, I saw a little comment. If Big D does not make it, or if the Big D does make it to the Final 3 competition, there is a possibility. And again, for point of spoilers, we don't know yet as far as Veto goes. But only one person in history has made it to a Final 3 without having won any vetoes, any HOH competitions, and that's Dr. Will. So theoretically, Big D could be on track to achieve a similar goal. We'll find out soon enough. All right, Jelly Crossing. So happy that Xavier nominated Kylan. But here's the thing. Remember, if you win as a Final 4, if you win the HOH, you don't really decide who goes to the Final 3. You're just protecting yourself. What really comes down to is who wins the veto, which, spoiler free, I'm not going to talk about. But until you know who wins the veto, you don't necessarily know who has that control. In my season, Nicole won HOH. Once she won the HOH, that meant that she was guaranteed to go to Final 3. I was so happy for her. I was so happy when I saw that. Of course, it caused my downfall to some degree. But that's all right. It's the way it happens. But Nicole was safe. But then it came down to the veto competition. And I knew how I had to win that veto. Remember those slingshots, knocking down pictures and all that? I didn't win it. As soon as Mickey won it, that's what made the difference. That's what determined who the final 2 people on the block were. Was Mickey winning that veto competition, because obviously he's not going to put himself up on the block, which meant here's Holly and I sitting on there, and I've got the task of trying to convince Mickey to send out Holly instead of myself, which I knew that was just about an impossible task, but I gave it everything I had. Do y'all remember? I finally decided when I realized that Mickey was planning to send me out the door and protect Holly. I thought, all right, well, I've got one chance left, and that's to see if I can get inside Mickey's head by talking about jury votes and convincing him that he'll never win if he keeps Holly and he sends me out the door. I remember I waited forever until I thought it was the right time. I didn't want to do it too early and have him time to spend too much time thinking about it, but I also didn't want to wait until it was too late before he'd already made up his mind for certain. So I think it was like on a Wednesday before eviction night. I called him up to the HOH room and just laid it out and said, look, just so you know, if you send me out the door, I'm going to go to the jury. I'm going to poison every one of them. I'm going to make sure that they find out that you are the most horrible person in the world, that you did everyone wrong. I'm going to tell them all the stories you told me about everyone and how you didn't have any respect for their game. And I'm going to blow up your game. I'm going to make sure that, yeah, I'm not going to win, Nikki, but I'm going to make sure you don't win either. And as I started telling him that, I could see the vein on his head right here, and I could see his jaw just start grinding. And then his foot was tapping, and I truly thought he was getting ready to pick me up and throw me over the balcony railings outside the HOH room. He was so furious, and I got to say I loved every bit of it. Now, deep inside, I knew it probably wasn't going to work because I figured he was one of those that the more you push him, the more he's going to push back, and the more emotional he gets, the more he's going to go against you just because he's mad. And as it turns out, that was fine. But whatever. It was worth a shot at the very end. And I had fun kind of pushing his buttons a little bit. At least make it a little more uncomfortable as he went out the door. Boss saying, before the wife should be a t-shirt. Yeah, maybe I missed the boat. I guess I should have been a little bit more of a marketer or something else. So, yeah, I guess there's always time. Maybe I'll do it somewhere down the road. I'll just be a stand-up comedian. I'll do all before the wife jokes for, it's like Jeff Foxworthy. He does the, you may know your redneck when. I'll just do, before the wife it was. I'll do nothing but dad jokes for an hour or two at a time. How would that be? All right, Julia Shepard saying, would Kylan be a bitter juror if he goes? Yeah, that's a good question, Julia. I personally don't think so. I think we have heard so many conversations of Kylan talking, saying, oh, I've got so much respect for the game. He had said before he wanted to take Xavier to the final two, not because that was the easy path, but because he thought that was the most respect for the game, taking the two strongest players to the very end. I don't agree with that. If I'd had the decision at the very end, I would have taken who I thought was the easiest player to beat. Well, I would have taken Nicole because she was my ride or die. But beyond that, I would have taken the easiest player to beat. That was always my objective. What's that? Y'all remember the old John F. Kennedy speech about going to the moon? We go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard. It's me doing a Massachusetts accent, which is horrible. But yeah, I feel like Kylan thinks the same thing, that the more his love of the game translates to let's get the best two people to the final two chair, which I disagree with. But no, I think he's got enough respect that once, assuming he's out the door, if he doesn't make it to the final two chair, I think he sits over there, and I think he votes for who he truly thinks deserves the game. I think. And I could be wrong, but now I don't think he's going to be a bitter juror. But I have thought about that. Who in this jury do y'all think is most likely to be bitter and to vote based on personal feelings and emotions as opposed to who they truly think played the best game? I've thought long and hard about that. Most of the players in that house, I don't think they're going to be bitter jurors. I think Alyssa could be a bitter juror. I think she felt very shocked and a little hurt when she got booted out, and when she later found out or will find out about the Cookout Alliance and all. I think she could be a little bitter, but her advantage is her ride or die, or her tightest person towards the end of the season was Xavier, and I think she would probably vote for him out of some bitterness to some other people. But that also, I think, is a valid vote. I don't think you'd be a bitter juror to vote for Xavier. I do think he's played the best game so far, but I don't know. I don't think this is necessarily going to be a season where we have a lot of bitter jurors. I just don't. I think I like the cast. Now, I got to say, it was a little boring, a little predictable at times, a lot of times, a whole lot of time. Let's just not sugarcoat it. But in terms of the cast themselves, for the most part, I really like this cast. I enjoyed each of them in terms of their as a person, as a player, as a strategy. I'm looking forward to meeting him at charity events and things on down the road. Now, there's a few people that I want to ask a few questions that probably are going to start off with something along the lines of, just let me know. What were you thinking? Well, what were you thinking when you did this? There'll be a few of those kind of conversations, but yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to all these cast members. All right, Tamika Hardy says, do you think Kylan was correct to keep X and Big D, or should he have worked with Tiff and Hannah instead? What was his best path in your mind? Gosh, Tamika, that's hard. I feel like by the time it came to that decision, the cast was already, the die was already cast. Is that what they say? I almost feel like either way was going to be tough for Kylan. Could he have worked with Hannah and Tiffany? Yeah, he could have, but I think Hannah and Tiffany were so tight with each other that if it came down to it, either one of them is going to boot Kylan when you're through at the end of the day. So I don't know how much that gains him in that situation. And I got to say, as much as it may be tough facing Xavier in a final two chair, facing Tiffany wasn't going to be a whole lot better. Now, you may get a vote from Big D just by default, because I just don't see Big D ever voting for Tiffany to win Big Brother. But beyond that, Tiffany played such a heck of a game. I can see why Kylan kind of tried to bro up and go with the guys instead of Tiffany and Hannah. I've been calling a little bit of I thought it was going to be a bit of a gender division for a long time. So I see how he did that. If he had gone the other side, if he had worked with Tiffany and Hannah, if he'd sent Xavier out the door, well, now you've got probably Kylan and Big D on one side, Tiffany and Hannah on the other side, Ozza in the middle, but probably supporting more Big D because she likes Big D. They've been friendly with each other, and because she's not a huge fan of Hannah. So you may have had 3 versus 2. But on the other hand, Kylan's a strong competitor on one side, and you got Tiffany and Hannah who are strong competitors on the other side. So I think you could have seen Tiffany and Hannah win the next few competitions. Who would they have got out first? I don't know. I mean, I got all confused because we're just sitting there talking about Kylan working with Tiffany and Hannah. No, never mind. Yeah, I don't know. That's one of the things. When I got out of the house, I spent so much time. I think every one of us does. So many coulda, shoulda, wouldas. What moves do you regret the most? What ones do you think wouldn't have made a difference? People always ask me, say, well, do you regret voting out Tommy instead of Holly? No, I stand by it. At that point in time, it was our best chance to get to the end. By that time, the die had already been kind of cast for my season. If there's moves that I could have done differently, it probably would have had to occur a week or two earlier. So I don't know, Tamika. That's a good question. We'll never know, but I guarantee Kylan's going to spend hours and hours and hours going through those scenarios in his head, trying to figure out where he may have gone wrong, assuming he doesn't make it to the final two. All right, Jelly Crossing, has there been a Big Brother player that chose who to take to final two and then lost against that person? Oh yeah, there've been a lot of those. The most famous has got to be Derek and Cody, right? Big Brother 16. Derek and Cody, they're tight. They're just the loyal guys with each other. They promise the whole time they're going to take each other to the final two. Derek is such a phenomenal player. Never went up on the block the whole season. Cody ends up winning the final competition, so he gets to decide who to take with him to the final two. He can either take his buddy Derek, or he can take Victoria. Victoria, I think the only competition she had won all season long was a veto competition. And she'd been on the block. She may still have the record for being on the block more than any other person in the history of Big Brother. I think she still has that record. That's like every week they put her on a block as a pawn. And so she was just, she just rode Cody. No one expected anything from her. If she makes it to the final two, you would think the jury votes for the other person overwhelmingly. And here's Cody having to make this decision. And rather than cutting his friend in the house, Cody cuts Victoria. He takes Derek with him to the final two. Derek wins. Was it unanimous vote? I don't remember if it was unanimous or not, but Derek wins by a landslide over Cody. And everyone always talks about that Cody lost $500,000 by keeping loyalty to Derek as more important than taking the easy path to victory. Now, I've heard stories since then that Cody has said everyone towards the end of that game was so worried that Victoria was just going to get drug along. Everyone wanted to sit up against her in the final two because they knew it was going to be an easy vote. And so supposedly he has said that everyone agreed as a group, said, if any of us take Victoria to the final two, the rest of us agree we are not going to cast a vote for that person. We're all going to vote for Victoria just to punish that person for taking such a GOAT kind of person to the final two. And so theoretically, that was what was in Cody's mind, and he was afraid that if he did go ahead and take Victoria, everyone else, because of that agreement, would have voted immediately for Victoria to win. And if someone is going to win, he wanted it to be Derek over Victoria. And there may be something to that. I could see that. But yeah, that's only one example. There have been, I don't remember if Paul took Josh or Josh took Paul to their final two that Josh ended up winning. I almost feel like Paul may have taken Josh. So there have been other situations where that happened. It's a risk you got to take. It's sometimes you have those situations occur. All right, let's see what else. Wendy. Do you think they'll increase America's prize player prize since the grand prize was increased? I don't know. 25,000 seems like a pretty nice round number. I have a feeling they probably will not. It'd be cool if they raised it to $50,000 or something. But yeah, I have a feeling it'll probably stay at $25,000. I wish maybe they had America's favorite player for $25,000, and then they maybe had America's favorite player finalist get $5,000 or something extra. Yeah, spread the wealth a little bit. Tommy and I were also Tommy, myself, and Nicole were the top three for America's favorite player. It would have been cool to get a little extra in addition to just that one person. But I kind of think they'll keep it at $25,000. I may be wrong. I don't have any problem if they raise it. They ought to raise it higher. As Survivor, they give $1 million to the winner. So we're still, even at $750,000, we're still a little bit behind Survivor. We spend a lot more time and give a whole lot more hours since we're on the live feeds and all of that. But they didn't ask me. But who do y'all think is going to get America's favorite player? Do y'all have some early favorites? I got to say, Derek X seems like, as much as everyone talks about Derek X, he easily could get America's favorite player. But sometimes if you go home too early, people forget about you a little bit. A lot of the casual people who just watch the TV episodes don't think as much about that person. Now, Davon, last season, she won America's favorite, even though she wasn't right up at the very end of the season. But that was kind of a unique situation as well. So I don't know. I could see Derek X easily winning America's favorite player, but there's a couple others that could be in the running as well. Chaz is saying, other than Nicole, who would you work with on All Stars last season? Yeah, I've thought about that. If I was in that house, what would I have done? I think I would have been in an interesting position because I'm older than a lot of the house guests. So I would have gravitated probably to the old school players, Janelle and Kaiser and Keisha and Memphis and some of the older house guests in the house. I just would have felt more in common with them. So I felt like I would have had some connections with them. But also, because I was brand new, I had just gotten out of the Big Brother house, I also feel like I could have approached some of the new school players, people like Tyler and Christmas and some of them, and said, hey, I just got through my season as well. We play a similar game. And so I felt like I would have bridged the gap between both groups. But when it came right down to it, especially with the committee forming and all of the new school people together, and I kind of think I may not have been included in that group just because I'm not quite them, age and everything else. I have a feeling I would have tried to work very closely with Janelle and Kaiser and that side of the house. I would have gone over there and quickly just said, man, guys, y'all know me. Let's work together. Let's make this happen. So I would have, how cool would it have been to work with them? That's probably where I would have ended up in terms of alliances. But one of the things about Big Brother, you got to be flexible. I also would have waited to see who approached me. I mean, I would have talked to everyone. I would have tried to have relationships with everyone. And then I just would have seen kind of how things fell out and who wanted to work with me. And we would have taken it from there. But yeah, it's fun to think about. I don't know. It would have been cool to work with them. All right, Mark, is there any chance for Ozza to go to a final two? Yeah, I think there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Things would have to happen, but Is she going to survive and make it to the final three? I think there's a possibility with that. And assuming that, then it all comes down to what happens in those final three competitions. Remember, Xavier's going through, right? We know that because he's already made he's HOH. Assume that Xavier wins the very first part of that final three competition, the very hard athletic endurance type competition. So he wins that one. At that point, he's not competing in the next phase. It would be either Big D and Ozza, or Ozza, Big D and Kylan, or whatever the scenario is, but it would not include Xavier. Ozza would potentially be one of two people doing that next competition. Well, especially if it's against Big D, for example. Ozza has a decent chance of winning that one, right? I think she probably has more than 50-50 chance again. I don't know. Big D's been playing better lately. He's finished second in a lot of competitions. So as much fun as we make of Big D and his lack of wins and everything, he's come close. He's done okay. But yeah, Ozza and Big D as one scenario up against each other in the second part of the final three competition. One of them wins, and then all of a sudden, all it takes is finishing up that final competition, which is typically nothing more than a true, false, yes, no, A-B type question and answer. And whoever gets the most answers right gets to decide who takes in the final two. Ozza could do that. We know she's been studying with those Fruit Loops and everything. So yeah, I think it's possible. If I'm in Vegas and I'm betting, I wonder if they have betting in Vegas on Big Brother. Probably not. Surely not, right? I don't know. I need to go ask him and say, who made the long shot bet on, who bet the most money on Cliff Hogg during season 21? But now, if I'm in Vegas, I'm probably not going to bet all my money that she's going to win it, but there's a possibility. And if she gets to the end and she wins it, well then, or at least if she gets to the final two, more power to her. She deserves it. She figures out how to get there. All right, Melanie McBride. Is a finalist able to win America's favorite player? I don't know, Melanie. No one ever told us one way or the other, because since we weren't the ones casting the vote, Big Brother production didn't figure we needed to know that answer. I want to say that a finalist has at least finished in the top three before. Well, and let's put it this way. When you see the voting on TV, like last season, they didn't say a vote for America's favorite player, but, you can't vote for Cody or you can't vote for Enzo because they're in the final two or whatever, or going to be in a final three. From a voting standpoint, I don't remember that they've ever said that you can only vote for people who aren't in the final two chairs. So my guess is that, yes, a finalist can win. But if that's the case, why has a finalist never won? Have they ever won? I don't know if they ever have. Y'all check for me. Has someone that was sitting in the final two chairs ever actually won America's favorite player? I feel like maybe there was one time that someone did. I remember reading something about it. But now, I don't think there's a rule against it. It may just be that the viewers always say, well, those two, they're going to finish in the big bucks. I'm not voting for them because they're already going to do pretty well. I'm going to vote for someone else that didn't quite make it. So I don't know if there's a hard and fast rule, but they never told us anyway. My three pugs. Hi, Cliff from Texas too. Are you going to appear in another Big Brother? Well, Big Brother has to call me. I don't think they'd appreciate me just showing up at the CBS lot with my Big Brother bag packed and ready to go. Although that is a strategy. But now, if they call me out, I'd try it, sure. All right. Let's see. Tommy saying Derek Levasseur easily won America's favorite player, but they gave it to Donnie. That could be. I don't know if anyone has officially said that, but I could see how Derek could have won the votes on it. But also, I love watching Donnie play, so I have no problem with him winning America's favorite player, and he could have captured the votes just all on his own. All right, Barbarella, do you watch relative race on BYU? No, I don't think so. All right, Barbarella, you guys send me some details on that, because I'm not. I assume you're talking about the BYU channel. No, YouTube Relative Race Season 8. I'm looking at it right there. 10-day race that mixes Ancestry DNA with Amazing Race. All right, well, then that sounds pretty cool. I know I've got BYU because I watch BYU football on TV every once in a while on that channel. So no, I don't. But thank you for giving me yet another reality TV show that I haven't watched it. Now I'm interested in checking out and watching. So thank you. I appreciate it. I'll do some checking on it. Jelly Crossing, what is your best day one and week one strategy? All right, well, Jelly Crossing, it depends on who you are coming into the house. And it's different. It was different for me going into the house than it probably would be for you. And here's the reason. Being the older guy, by several decades over everyone else in that house. I knew, and having watched enough Big Brother, I knew coming in on day number one that I was going to be a target. It's easy to vote out the old guy. Who cares? He's the old guy. He doesn't have anything in common with us. Just get him out here. Let us all as young people, play the game. And he's just there he's just a figurehead. He's just there as a token guy that, bring in the older viewers. Let's boot him out, and then we'll actually play the game. So I knew coming in that had happened so many times to that older person in the house. Glenn and Steve, Kevin was a little lucky. It didn't happen to him, but part of the reason Kevin didn't get sent out early is because Paul gave him a friendship bracelet, which protected him for the first few weeks. So, but the older guy typically goes home. So I went in knowing that I was going to have to play so much harder than most people, and I was going to have to take risk and do everything possible to try to stay alive for that first week, which is why I volunteered to be camp director, which led to me getting banished and having to compete for my life to get back into the house. And it meant that I just had to be a little more aggressive in talking to people. I told the producers during my trap, I said, look, I really think that I either am going to go home the first week or I'm going to stay in the game a long time, because if I can just have enough time in there to develop some relationships with some people so they stop looking at me as just the old guy and actually start saying, oh, it's Cliff. We know who he is and nice guy. Or I hope they'd say that. But I figured if I just had a little time, I could do that. But I had to play much more aggressively those first few days, that first week. And y'all didn't get to see the live feeds because they didn't start the live feeds until after week 1 during my season. But I spent a lot of time doing nothing but hanging out with people, not talking game, just hanging out with them, talking about music and things they did and social media and all the stuff I had no clue about. But I just tried to wing it, tried to fake it as best I could. It was just a matter of trying to be in their conversations, making a lot of jokes and just making them feel very comfortable having me in the house. That was my week 1 strategy, was forget Big Brother. I'm just trying to fit in. That's all I want to do for this first week is fit in so they feel a little guilty if they send me out the door. Because I did a little of that. I talked about my family and all, trying to make them feel a little less comfortable just booting me without a second thought. If you go into the house, though, if you're in your mid-20s, if there's nothing that makes you just really stand out from someone else, then it's a different strategy. At that point, I'd say go in, be nice and friendly to everyone. Don't make anyone mad at you, so they may want to send you out the door, because everyone's looking just for the tiniest little excuse to put someone on the block. Be friendly with everyone. Make promises to everyone who asks you to make a promise to them, whether you intend to keep them or not. And then just lay low, fly under the radar for a few weeks until you figure out the lay of the land, figure out who's aligned with who, and start doing some of that. That would be my advice to someone who can come in and do it. Someone like me who was a target on day 1, I had to play it a little bit differently. All right, Noah Lemon, what was your favorite season for Zingbot? I love 16. Man, Noah, you got a much better memory than I do. I don't ever want to face you in a memory challenge in Big Brother. If you remember the zings from all the way back into the season 16, because I don't have a clue. I remember my season zings. I remember this season, the zings, and I may remember. Man, I remember Nicole Franzel got burned last season on her zing during the All-Star season. I couldn't answer you but wouldn't that be fun? Surely someone has gone out to YouTube. If not, for those of you who are big into YouTube, I'd love to just see a compilation of all the Zingbot zings over the years. Because when did he start? Season 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there, I feel like. Take all the Zingbot zings. It must have been after 8, because I don't remember him zinging Evil Dick. That would have been fun. But yeah, I'd love to just see a compilation of every zing that Zingbot's ever done. I gotta say, Zingbot, every season, he's got 1 or 2 that just go, whoa, man, that's quite the burn. And then he has a few that's like, oh, come on, you just mailed it in. I could have come up with something better than that, given 5 minutes and a little time to think about it. But it's funny how they come up with the zings, because they're never what I expect. I always think I know what they're going to be talking about, and then it turns into something completely different that doesn't have a lot of relevance. But I have no clue. I'll take your word that 16 was good, because I don't remember them. But now I'm going to have to go look them up just to see. All right, Logical Realist. I love that name. Hey, Logical. I still don't believe Ozza tried to get Hannah voted out. It's a funny thing. Here's the thing, Logical. I've seen a lot of people saying, how could Hannah do that? She had the worst HOH in a long time in Big Brother. That's saying a lot when you say that. And how could she have voted out Hannah? That was her one deal. I get it. I get what Oz's thinking was while she was in that house. She and Hannah did not get along. There was a lot of friction between the two of them. She felt incredibly tight with Xavier, right? I mean, she has a crush on him, and Xavier's done just enough to kind of make her feel like he's going to protect her and watch out for her. She's tight with Big D, so that's two of the three guys that she felt like she had a little special connection with, as opposed to her just not feeling like she had that same connection with Hannah. So we all on the outside are seeing these guys grow up with each other and thinking, man, they're gonna be together to the end. Oz is in trouble and all that. But from Oz's viewpoint, she doesn't see all the interactions that we see. She doesn't see how relaxed sometimes their conversation is between these guys. She just saw her own relationships, and she felt like she had tight relationships with two of the guys. And so I see, and it doesn't mean I agree with it. I'm not sure I disagree either. It was a tough decision for Hannah, for Ozza, but I see what was going on in her mind that led her to make the decision that she did. So yeah, is it going to pay off? I don't know. We'll find out after the finale. If Ozza's sitting there with a check for $750,000, then we're all going to say, yeah, I guess you should have gotten rid of Hannah. If not, then we'll start asking the questions and all that. But I see what she's thinking about. Chaz, are you going to continue with these Monday live shows after Big Brother's over? Love to get your weekly opinions on Survivor. Yeah, Chaz, I'm going to do it. I think this is episode 43. I think that's episode 43 on YouTube that I've done. Plus, I did a whole lot over in TV Co. Before I came over here. So, yeah, I expect I'll continue to do the Monday shows. The difference is, once Big Brother's over, we'll back off the reality TV. Now, with Survivor going, we'll still talk about the Survivor. We'll talk about the challenge a little bit as well. Challenge kind of exciting, huh? For those of you who watch that, a little bit of animosity between Josh and Fessy, the Big Brother family inside the challenge house. But yeah, well, I'll continue to do the show on Monday nights. I'll just back off the show a little bit. I'm going to do the Survivor recaps in case you weren't out here earlier. I think I'm going to start doing, like, the day after the Survivor episode airs, I'll do 20 minutes or so, just a recap of what happened, my opinions, my thoughts, things like that. But yeah, I'm sure Monday nights we'll talk about Survivor also. We'll talk about other reality TV. But I'll mix it in. I'll spend a little more time talking binge shows that we've been watching on Netflix, and I don't know, travel trips from all the time I traveled around the world. I'll tell some of my old stories that some of you have heard. Some of you are going to go, oh my God, Cliff's telling that same story again. He told it in the house. He told it on here. Now he's telling it again. Well, welcome to my world. My family can probably relate with you. But yeah, I'll keep on doing Monday nights. I'll do it as long as time and work and everything else allows me to. As long as y'all are out here watching and supporting me, which thank you very much. But yeah, I'll keep on doing it. Absolutely. The Circle, the Challenge, man, too many shows I need to catch up on. Yeah, Ma, I agree completely. There's only so many hours a day. I wish I lived on, it's like Jupiter somewhere where you got like a day is 70 hours or something. I don't know what it is, but yeah, no, I watch a lot of reality TV, and I got to squeeze it in with work and family and everything else. Birdman, would you play Survivor? Yeah, I'd play Survivor. It'd be a lot of fun. I think I'd do okay on Survivor. Yeah, I've said before, you didn't get to see me swimming. I do a lot of outdoor boating, rowing, kayaking, jet skiing, swimming. I love the water. Go to the lake all the time. I actually think you put me on an island, so many of those challenges have you swimming and things like that and going out on canoes. I would excel. I do pretty well at that. I'm big enough. I'd be like a pack mule. I could carry a lot of things when you got those tasks where you got to carry the big heavy loads and everything. I'd do okay with that. Now, when you do something like you say, okay, your camp's over 2 miles that direction. The last person there, they're evicted from the tribe. Well, then maybe I got some issues with that. I'm not really a long distance runner like I used to be, like I was ever a long distance runner. But yeah, there's some things I wouldn't do great. But no, I think I'd do pretty well on Survivor. I think I can decently read people, and Lord knows I try to work the relationships, and I do it on Survivor as well. So yeah, it'd be fun to do, but just like everything else, they have to make the call. They're not sitting there waiting for me to call them. I wish they were. But yeah, I'd do it in a heartbeat if they gave me the chance. Let's see. Never paying attention to astronomy. Down Jupiter is just under 10 hours. All right, well, Ma, so thank you. see how much we learn in this class. I don't know that I took astronomy in college or high school. I think I was more of the petroleum engineer, so I was probably studying more what happens underground with rocks and fluids and things like that. But now I know how long a day is in Jupiter. Funny that I picked up that planet just happens to be such a short day. Well, there you go. All right, let's see what's 7:59. So quick, guys. It's what happens every time, every single time. But I appreciate y'all coming out here. And again tomorrow morning, I'm going to do my morning recap. It's gotten a little rough here lately with not as much conversation for just 4 people, but we'll continue to do our recaps in the morning, talk about Big Brother. I've got, look for it Thursday night, Survivor. I'm probably going to put out a precast review over the next 24 hours or so. So y'all be watching YouTube for that. As I said before, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, especially with Survivor, since I don't know exactly how the schedule is going to work, but subscribe. You'll get a notification once I put the preseason cast preview. I'm just going to spend about 30 seconds per person. Talk about who I thought their pros, their cons, who I'd align with, who I'd be a little nervous about aligning with. So we'll do that as well. All right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. Thank you. For those of you out here waiting for me, because I was a minute or two late, thank you for waiting for me. I appreciate that. For all of y'all out here live, thank you. Thank you for the questions. For all of y'all watching on replay, thank you as well. You can always send me DMs on Twitter or Instagram. Send me questions that you want to include on these Monday night shows. I'm happy to try to answer every bit as I can. Sometimes I have a hard time getting to all the comments, so if I missed yours, apologies for that, but it wasn't intentional, just me trying to keep up. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday night. Have a fantastic week. Stay safe. Give hugs to your friends and loved ones, and I will see y'all tomorrow morning, next Monday. Just depends on what your schedule's like. SKD 143. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love the reality fans around the world. Love all of y'all. Y'all stay safe. Have a great one. I will talk to y'all later. Cheers, my friends. Bye. See y'all later, guys. Bye. Still trying to close.